That said, let's welcome our first storyteller, Paweł.
Yeah.
Great job with the Paweł.
Let's go.
Congratulations. Yeah. Paweł Grajnert is my name. It's Polish. That's where it comes from. And my story is about my mother, whom all of you would know as a nanny. That's how she would present herself to Americans, and you would know her as someone who took care of your children while you went to work, or elders sometimes. She'd take care of them. But to give you an example of what she meant to my community, the Polish community here in Chicago, I had the honor to pitch a script at the Cannes Film Festival one time, and it was amazing. You know, I was standing there on a beach with the Côte d'Azur behind me, and the wind was blowing, and I had longer hair a little bit, and I was, you know, telling my story. I had producers in front of me. They were rapt. They loved it. I was, you know, cloud nine coming down off the stairs. Wonderful. Everything's great. And some guy comes up to me and says, "Hey, you know," and then he's speaking Polish. He was a radio guy from Chicago. "Can I do an interview with you?" "Absolutely, sure." We sit down. He puts the mic in my face and he goes, "You may not know his name, Paweł Grajnert, but you will know his mother's name, Bożesława Anderson." And then the rest of the interview was about her, of course. I'll just give you a picture of who she was to the community. Why? Well, when growing up, you know, there was this thing called the Cold War, and my mother was in the middle of that, and so were we all. We were all in the middle of it. Going to Poland was not just a trip to the old country, it was a part of this war. And my mother would smuggle money in for solidarity, is what we would do. And the way you smuggle money in to help fight a totalitarian state is that you have a 13-year-old son and a small daughter. An incident in Poland, I'll give you an example, is at 7, standing on a train platform, there across the train platform, somewhere in Warsaw, I think actually in the main train station there, across the train hall where all the platforms were is a Soviet soldier. This was again in the Cold War, and he's wearing his, you know, green uniform. He's some recruit from someplace in Kazakhstan, you know, poor kid. But he's got the red star on his hat, and I point, you know, and I say, "Bolshevik! Bolshevik!" You could imagine everyone in that station staring at me. We didn't care. We were Americans, you know. Nothing was going to happen to us. But that's how we were brought up. Yeah. So when my sister was now 6, I was like 13, we would treat her as the mule. She would carry the money in her little dress, white little dress. She had curly blonde hair. I was the 13-year-old boy distraction, you know. Everybody was looking at me, you know, and would check the 13-year-old girl. So we crossed the border with, you know, tens of thousands of dollars. And the next trick was to actually get this to a guy called Lech Wałęsa. Now, if you don't know who Lech Wałęsa is, he was the head of Solidarity in the 1980s. This is the organization that brings down communism and finally brings down the Soviet Empire. I mean, that's how powerful he was. He was, you know, he was the Volodymyr Zelensky of his time, if you want to know just how famous he was. And, you know, we needed to get this money to him, right? But we had no clue. We had no plans. There was no connection between us and Lech Wałęsa. There was never any communications across these borders. We just were going to deliver it. Of of course, you know, this is my mother, right? So just, you know, she has a plan, and so we get on a train, we go to Gdańsk, which is where Lech Wałęsa is, and we go into the biggest hotel there is in the town. The communists would put up these weird, giant hotels everywhere. Anyways, they built one in Gdańsk, it's still there. It might still be the tallest building there. And we go inside, walk into the lobby. Behind the counter are communists. You have to understand this. You would not get a job at this hotel unless you were a communist. And they ask, what are you doing here? To my mother. And my mother says to them, I'm here to help Solidarity. Straight up, like that. Like, you know, this is like walking up to, you know, a guy who works for Putin and going, you know, I'm going to help out Ukraine here. You're not making friends. So of course they showed us the door. But one of the cleaning people heard this little exchange. By this point, Solidarity had already had a couple of strikes under their belt. The cleaning lady walks up to the desk and says, you know what, you know, they get to stay. Or we go on strike. And so lo and behold, for tens of dollars, I'm not kidding you, tens of dollars, my sister, my mom, and I are living in the presidential suite at the top of this hotel, living it up. Like, you know, in the morning we come downstairs, we're eating at this poshest of restaurants, you know, little tea and little crumpets, everything perfect, you know, great food. And now, of course, you know, how the money, we still got this money, right? Still got the tens of thousands of dollars, and how are we going to find Lech Wałęsa? So we go outside, and lo and behold, there's a parade. There's a parade walking right down the street, and who is at the head of the parade? Lech Wałęsa is at the head of the parade, right? But it's a moving target. It's a moving target. How are we going to stop the target? We're going to give me a camera. 13-year-old me gets the camera. My sister gets told to go stand into the street. We go out into the middle of the street, and I kid you not, there's a photograph of my sister taken by me with a parade behind her of dignitaries, Lech Wałęsa, church leaders, you know, the whole shebang, looking directly at me into the camera going, what are you doing in the middle of the street? Right? We're literally holding up this parade. Meanwhile, my mother goes to the back of the parade where she meets Mrs. Lech Wałęsa. And in minutes, of course, she's invited over for dinner. Next thing I know, I'm sitting at a dinner table with Lech Wałęsa, one of the most famous people on earth at the time. Money is exchanged, we have the dinner, we leave. And in 1993, you can look up this picture as well. It is Lech Wałęsa who shakes the hand of the last Soviet general to leave Poland. We succeeded. You know, sometimes it really all it takes is to be yourself to defeat even the greatest of enemies.